So the verdict was just released on the Breonna Taylor case, and crap is really about to hit the fan in Louisville, Kentucky. Let's get into it. So welcome to my channel. This is Bruce the Boss Brooks. If this is your first time here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the little notification bell so you can get notified of my content. Subscribing is a major way of supporting this channel and helping it grow and get the message out there. If you are returning, want to say welcome, don't forget to smash on that like button. Let's get into it. So this has been brewing for many months. A lot of you already know the story of Breonna Taylor and the warrant that was served that ultimately resulted in her death. Let's talk about it. So the Breonna Taylor case has really caught national attention since the incident occurred back in March, especially as it became a galvanizing effort for the Black Lives Matter movement and a battle cry against the police and how they serve warrants and or the treatment of their black suspects. But is it justified, and is there a lot of misinformation to paint a certain narrative a certain way? Let's discuss that here. And I know I'm probably going to catch a lot of slack on this or a lot of heat, especially a lot of my friends on social media, Facebook. They've been crying, this is wrong, I can't believe this. Or when the case was settled, the civil case, and they were awarded 12 million bucks, everyone was saying, oh my God, this is just indication that they were wrong. If you can't see why they were wrong, I don't know what to say, but can't wait for the criminal cases or criminal charges to be filed. But in my experience, when there's a civil suit, it's usually because you lost a criminal, and it's almost never an incident where the criminal case happened after the civil suit was solved and or resolved. So I think they already knew what the result was going to be, but wanted to pacify the crowd and or the mob, I should say, that's about to descend on Louisville beforehand, kind of pacify him. But let's talk about what I mentioned earlier. Let's really get into, I think, a lot of misinformation that has fed into a certain narrative that they wanted to say. So one of the narratives that I have been reading on the news, all these articles out there, is saying that she was a like an EMT or a hospital worker who was an aspiring nurse. And she was just sleeping in her bed at the time that a no-knock warrant was served on her and her then live-in boyfriend. They were startled. Police fired upon them. They did nothing wrong. She has no criminal record. And at the end of the day, there were no drugs found at her apartment. This was murder. That's the narrative that I have been reading and are seeing on all these news articles in order to paint her as this perfect saint who was going somewhere, and the police as like Gestapo, just coming in and harassing or terrorizing the community. But is that really what is happening? Well, let's break this down piece by piece from what I do know of it. Now, I did get my hands on, or not I got my hands on, Officer Tatum of the Tatum Report got his hands on this leaked document and information. It's a 39-page report on the whole case. You can read it for yourself. I'll put a link to the description box below on the facts of this case. 39 pages. Have fun with it. I will highlight. I'm not going to go through all 39 pages with you, but I will highlight the important pieces that can be found in there, and you can verify it. And if you disagree and or you want to dispute it, you need to come with alternative facts in the comment section. Please bring it. I want to hear it. So this is what we do know about Breonna Taylor. So for one thing, she was not hospital worker or emergency care worker at the time. She had long since been fired from her job. Why? So it's been 3.5, maybe 4 years. Back in 2016, a dead body was found in the trunk of her car. To be more specific, it was found in the trunk of her rental car. Now, no charges were ultimately filed, although the police did do an investigation. Now, can you really come up with a logical explanation as to why a dead body is found in a vehicle registered under you that you're driving? A rental car, no less. So it's not like this was a car she had for a long time. and just let a friend just drive it willy-nilly. Like, oh yeah, I've had this car for like 5 years. You can ride it. No, this was a rental car and a dead body found in it. What kind of activity was she involved in? Not saying she committed the murder, but apparently her circle includes someone who will kill, kill an individual and not even properly dispose of the body in such a way that doesn't get her in trouble or get them somehow implicated. But bottom line, no charges were filed, but the whole situation was very suspicious, very icky, and they're like, okay, we need to let you go. We don't know what circle you're running with, but we cannot have characters or individuals like this working for the city. So she's been let go for almost 4 years prior to this whole situation. No, whatever aspiring hope she had of becoming a nurse were dashed right then and there. Did Breonna Taylor have a criminal record? No, but you know what? A lot of people don't have criminal records prior to them actually finally getting arrested and or caught. I mean, look at, think of people like Jay-Z, for instance, Sean Carter. Man has admitted to building an empire selling drugs from the late 80s through the mid 90s to 94 prior to just getting his life straightened out and not straightened out so much, but rather committing to the rap game, to music full time, starting his own record label, Rockefeller Records. But he admitted, hey, I made $900,000 in this industry. Does he have an arrest record to warrant that? And what would the answer be? I don't think he does. But again, just because you don't have an extensive criminal record doesn't mean you weren't involved in criminal activities. And the same is true for Breonna Taylor. It's all in a report that you can read for yourself. For one thing, back on January the 5th, 2017, her boyfriend, or then boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover, emphasis on the then boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover, was arrested, and they were recording his calls while he was in jail, and they have Breonna Taylor and him discussing dope deals, how she was in contact with one of his runners, and how that specific runner was back at the trap house, and how she was trying to coordinate with him also to try to get the money, which she did get $5,000 cash as his bond to get him out. But there were a bunch of recordings that they, again, wiretapped Jamarcus Glover's phone calls, where they have Breonna Taylor and Jamarcus Glover, among other people, dead to rights, on this recorded line, talking about crimes, talking about drug deals that they were committing. This was a case that was 3 years in the making, building up. So they have her dead to right talking about drug deals with Jamarcus Glover and being connected to and or being part of the trap house, knowing of the trap house. They have video footage of Jamarcus Glover on February the 13th, 2020, this year, 1 month prior to the event in question. They have video footage of Jamarcus Glover driving a vehicle registered in Breonna Taylor's name. So even about 3 years from the incidents when he was initially arrested, he still has a connection with Breonna Taylor. They have recordings of Jamarcus Glover talking to another individual saying he has stuff stashed in her house. I think it was specifically money, cash, not drugs, but he admitted to there being cash in her house that he couldn't go grab and get at a moment's notice. Also, part of their ongoing investigation, on February the 24th, 2020, they received records of his bank account at Chase Bank, and according to Chase Bank's records, his mailing address was that of Breonna Taylor's. So this was not guesswork on the police part and she had a history with Jamarcus Glover, let's just go get a warrant for her. No, this was an ongoing investigation where they have her on recorded line, they have Jamarcus Glover on recorded line, knee deep in criminal activity. She was very much a part of it, and he's also admitted to having things, not maybe drugs, but definitely at least money at her house. He was still driving a car a month before the incident that was in her name. His mailing address, according to his bank records, were her address. Those two were still very much connected to this very day. She is very much a part of the investigation. And yes, if anyone wants to ask, her name was on the warrant. You can see it for yourself. So the police had every justification for getting a warrant, in which they did, and they did get a warrant for Breonna Taylor and for her apartment. All of that was legal. This was not in any way harassment. She was very much a part of what was going on in that industry, to some enough extent for them to do a warrant on her address. She was still at least involved at the time. Now let's go to the incident in question. So on the night they are executing the warrant. Now, despite having a no-knock warrant, they didn't do that. They did knock. That is corroborated by Kenneth Walker, who was the guy with her at the time. But the fact that she was still in some way connected to Jamarcus Glover, and the transcripts of the recorded call indicate or show that Breonna was still posting pictures of her and Jamarcus Glover together, despite the fact that she was supposedly with this Kenneth Walker, but that's neither here or there. At that night, he was spending the night, Kenneth Walker, with Breonna Taylor, and he corroborates that they did knock. Now, they also say that they announced themselves. That was corroborated by one of the neighbors, an independent witness, according to the records. That can be verified. They announced themselves. Whether or not Breonna Taylor and Kenneth Walker heard it, they identified themselves. So the no-knock warrant is not an issue here. They knocked, and they supposedly identified themselves. Now, this could be a case of not an honest mistake. When I say honest mistake, I mean a mistake on Kenneth Walker's part, meaning, yes, it is highly possible, or a misunderstanding, because it is highly possible that Kenneth Walker and Breonna Taylor did not hear them announce themselves, that they just hear knocking on the door as if someone's trying to get in, and they're worried for their lives or worried for their safety. So Kenneth Walker, and no one's trying to say why he had a gun. Was it illegal? What was he running in? We're not trying to make that case right here. But fact is, he did have a gun, which is totally fine so long as it's legal, which I understand it was. And he fired what he said was a warning shot at the door, which hits one of the officers. If it was a mistake, if he did not know that they were cops in this whole incident, and then the cops fired back, they break through the door and they shoot. Breonna Taylor and Kenneth Walker were apparently in the hallway together at the time, and Breonna Taylor gets hit. I believe she was shot 6 to 8 times. Only one of the shots were fatal, and unfortunately she's dead. Now, based upon that, we can say at the very least that it was an honest mistake by Kenneth Walker's part for even firing the shots, which created the situation to begin with. How can we really say that this was murder when all of the evidence points to Kenneth Walker firing first at them, and they only responded to the gunfire? I mean, they had a legal warrant, and they executed that warrant, and they didn't even execute it the way that it was initially written. It was a no-knock warrant. They could have just busted in. But they provided ample warning for Kenneth Walker and Breonna Taylor by knocking, which woke them up and got them closer to the door, and which caused the firing to begin with. But why can't the protesters, or those who are upset, at the very least say, okay, this was an honest mistake. You were executing a legal warrant. Kenneth Walker fired, and they returned fire. Which, are you saying that the cops are not justified in returning fire? Like, really, is that the argument you're trying to make? If we're honest with ourselves and take emotion out of it, we can at the very least agree, all right, maybe this was an honest mistake on Kenneth Walker's part for escalating it to that situation, and they were just merely responding, but he's thinking he's defending his property. Those things can happen. But no, they're trying to say that this is murder, the cops are evil and or terrorizing the community. But okay, back to what happened. Now, one of the questions I have is, okay, we know both Breonna Taylor and Kenneth Walker were both in the hallway at the time. Kenneth Walker fires the first shot at the door, and then the cops return fire. How is it that Kenneth Walker is left unharmed and Breonna Taylor is the one with 6 to 8 bullet wounds? Was he, and I want to pose this question, and it's possible, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Was he possibly using Breonna Taylor as a human shield? If so, that's really despicable, but that does open the question. How are they both in the hallway? He's the one initiating the shooting, and they fire back, and they only hit Breonna Taylor. I mean, that would lead me to believe he could have possibly been using her as a shield, but we have to wait for the full investigation to come out and reveal what happened as far as how that could have occurred. Now, there was one officer involved in this whole case who was fired on the spot just because he fired apparently 10 rounds into the apartment blindly. And one of the rounds may have gone towards a neighbor's house, and that was considered reckless use of a weapon. That has nothing to do with the actual shooting of Breonna Taylor. It had everything to do with him firing towards or into another apartment. And he is wrong for doing so, if that is the case. But again, I want to get to how is this unjustifiable? How is this murder if they were executing a legal warrant? They have it on record, on phone record, of her involvement with Jamarcus Glover and his drug deals and with the trap house. They have video surveillance, which you can see in the documents that are in the link below. 39-page document. You can see it for yourself, including pictures, license plate of Jamarcus Glover going to her apartment. Jamarcus Glover in a car registered in her name. You can see the transcripts of their conversation and them being knee deep in this drug activity. They were conducting, the police, that was an investigation. They were doing it all legally, got the necessary paperwork and or warrants to do so, and she was involved in it very much so, even as recent as this past February, and they were executing that warrant in her name. Where did the police go wrong, other than that one officer shooting blindly? Where did the police go wrong? Can someone tell me that? And why are these people, Black Lives Matter and Antifa, about to start a riot in Louisville over this? I want to know, what are your thoughts on it? Does this justify a riot? Was justice served or not? And also, do you think the city caved too soon on the $12 million civil case just to pacify, or do you think it was rightly? But I would like to know, where did the police go wrong legally? I want to know your comments. Please drop your comments in the comment section below. If you agree with some of my line of thinking, go ahead, hit the like button. Don't forget to share this video. And again, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and smash on that notification bell so you can get notified of my latest content. I just want to have a conversation that I don't think the mainstream media wants us to have as a nation. I honestly believe that trying to divide and conquer, plant the seeds of chaos. They want to control the narrative and want the narrative to be whatever it is, the picture that they're trying to paint. And that also includes Black Lives Matter. I believe there are a lot of good-hearted people in the discussion and are a part of the group BLM who do honestly believe that. And there are real cases of police brutality, yes, but that's not every case that they present. So that's my video. I want to know what your thoughts. Again, this is Bruce the Boss Brooks, and I'm out.